So now let's come over here, open up your browser, and over here you type in .pad.dev, and whatever was there, remove that and have this little main function and run it, and definitely you'll see that here it says hello. Now we are going to do our practice and understanding of Dart list and map over here. All right, so the first thing I want to tell you that actually what is map? Okay, and even before I tell you what is map, I would like to tell you that what map looks like. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a variable. So here I can say var items, and then I'm gonna put like this and braces over here. Okay, now I have this two curly braces, and make sure that you have comma, otherwise you'll get an error. And inside this here I can say first so first item is apple, and then second item is banana, and then third item is, you can actually write anything here, orange. Okay, all right, so whenever you see like this, if you have two curly braces, and before the curly braces you have this equal sign over here, and inside it you have this quotation and then colon, this colon over here. So whenever you see anything like that, you have to assume that this is going to be a Dart map. So okay, so Dart map looks like this. But if you do have, like, say, instead of this kind of brackets you have this brackets, that's not a map, that's a list. So that's how quickly you recognize what is a map and what is a list. So if you get confused, if you see curly braces, that would be a map, and if you see this kind of braces, that would be a list. And that's how you remember that. Okay, and another sign is that, well, in map you have colon. Okay, and in list you'll really not have any colon unless you specially format your data inside this. Okay, and the colons, you'll see that they are not inside any kind of double quotation. Okay, so that's the other thing you have to remember. So the idea is, whenever you see that you have this brackets, curly braces, and then you have quotation, and between the quotation you have this colon, so that would be a map. That's the first way to understand. All right, so now we know what map looks like, so let's go ahead and print it. So here I could say items, and then let's put it. Okay, let's put it over here, and it may take a little bit of time. And over here we see that the way I pretty much wrote here, it showed up pretty much the same way, apart just only difference is it didn't take any quotation like double quotes, and then it printed. So here we can understand that map is something like a local temporary storage. You can understand it like this. It's very temporary, so every time you refresh your app it might be gone totally. Okay, or depending on your system or depending on your application. Okay, so it should be gone because it's not long-term memory. Whenever you refresh or remove manually, or somehow, or a system decides to remove them, they would be gone directly. Okay, so temporary list. All right, anyway, so this is how, I wouldn't say temporary list, temporary storage. Okay, so this is how the basic format of map looks like. Okay, now of course another thing that I would like to show you right now, so let's go ahead and do like this first. So now let's go ahead and print it over here, and let's see what it prints for us. Now here we see apple, so we wrote first, we see apple, and what if we write third? What are we gonna see? So you have time to think about it. So definitely we'll see that it shows up orange over here. Now my compute, I don't know, it could be the internet issue that is a bit slow every time it shows up. So it's called orange, right? That's what it showed up. So now we understand that earlier we said it's like a temporary data storage, and then we can retrieve part of the data. For example, the one on the left side, we can retrieve the one on the right side using the one on the left side. So we use the left side to retrieve the data that's on the right side. So we can understand it like this. So this kind of work like index, but they're not exactly index. Okay, is we cannot loop through them directly. We cannot index through them. Like to get apple, you cannot write item 0 because it will get error. Okay, so map actually has a special property that is called key value pair. So this is a pair right next to each other. This is called pair. So this is going to be key and this is going to be value. This is going to be key and this is going to be value. This is going to be key, this is going to be value. So this is called key value pair. So in general, in our app or application, whatever we do, most probably we're going to use the value, and to get the value we use the keys. So these are called keys. So whatever the keys are available over here, you can take that key and try to use that. In our case, we are printing it. Now for this key over here, we're gonna see that it prints it printed earlier, it printed apple. For this one, it printed orange. Now of course the name doesn't have to be, the keys names doesn't have to be in this thing. You can also say 6th. All right, here you can say melon. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, melon. Okay, right. The last comma is not important. Now the first thing is that it's still gonna work, and well, 1 second is slow. So it doesn't have to be exact first, second, third order, which means that for value itself you can name anything. Okay, as long as it's inside this quotation, it's going to work. Okay, so that's how it works. And of course, now over here we can go ahead and see that we can write 6th. So definitely we're going to see that it prints oranges. All right, so let's wait for it. Now over here, if you have string, you can have string over here as well. Okay, but is it the only way to work? Anyway, so here we see that it's melon, right? So for first, I want to put here 0. Okay, and then I am going to go ahead and print first, and let's see what it looks like. So earlier we said that here we had string, right? But now we change it to integer, which means that actually you can go ahead and put any kind of value over here for this kind of key. All right, so whatever the key has the value, it would just print it. It doesn't matter what kind of object it is. It could be string, it could be integer, it could be custom object, and it could also be a, so here we'll have datetime.now, and now let's go ahead and print that, and we'll see that here we will see the current time over here. So this is my time, 2024 and 0306. It's 4 o'clock over here. So you see that here it could be any kind of custom object, anything you like. Then how about this one? In fact, you can also change this to 0. Let's see. But of course, now this key first, it doesn't exist over here. So if you want to access this, you have to have over here 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it. All right, and we'll still see that it prints this one. So the idea is, if you have a map, you can have key pair value items, or the way you connect them, and at the same time, the key could be any value. Key could be string, key could be integer. All right, then value could be actually any kind of object. Okay, it is string object, integer object, or custom object. So this is our basic understanding of how things work with map and how we can get the data. So now you may also ask that, why should I need this? Okay, why should I go ahead and do like this? It could be basic questions, right? Anybody can ask this, why I'm going to do this. Now, of course, you want to do data manipulation. You want to work with your data, right? Here you can declare variable var x. Now you want to get the data from items, and then you do whatever you like. Okay, so you access this list map over here actually, and then you can do whatever you want with this. So it's all up to you that, but the idea is you can store data like this and then you use that. Now luckily a lot of time from our server we get data like this. When you work with internet data, which means if your data is coming from internet or server, most data comes in this format, but that format is called a JSON format. But JSON format and Dart map, they almost look same, but there is a bit of difference, okay? But trust me, if you know JSON, now you know Dart. If you know Dart map, you will know JSON, okay? Now they're almost similar, but not exactly the same thing, okay? So this is how we go ahead and create our map. Now there's the difference is that if this is going to be a JSON map, we know that here we can put string or integer. But if this is going to be JSON format, then here you cannot have integer, it will have error. You can only have string for your JSON object, and the value over here actually could be anything. Now we learned that this things that we can actually change the way we put values, the type of values, and the type of keys we put, right now actually it's pretty dynamic. What do we mean by dynamic? So here it could be integer, here it could be string, or here it could be string, here it could be integer, so it could be anything. But now if you do want, you can explicitly mention the type, that what you want as key, what you want as value. I mean that whatever the data type you want for keys, you can mention that. You can also mention whatever the values type you want for value, okay? So we can do that. So actually you can mention the type over here. So this one refers to the keys. So our keys, they are string type. Now of course over here I said dynamic. If you want, you can also mention string, I believe, okay? And you got to run it and we'll see we don't have any issues, okay? Because here we say string, here we say string, and we print that. But now what's gonna happen over here, if you want integer, now of course we'll have error, because here you're saying the value should be all integer type, but now this is all string. Now it throws error. And why we do that? Because it's type safety. It's safe for your application. If you wherever you can explicitly mention the type, but if you can't, then you can just keep it general, or the other option is dynamic. General, when I say general, I mean that you don't mention anything here, okay? You just have the curly braces over here. That's all you have, okay? So that's more general. Or you could also do this one. This is a little better, because with this you are saying, okay, my keys are all string, the value could be anything, right? Now in this case, if you go ahead and change it to 0, you'll see that we don't get error, because here dynamic means it could be any type, right? Any kind of type. For example, we can also do datetime.now and it's still gonna work, okay? Let's see what's going on. Date time, I think that should be capital T. Let's go ahead and run it, and definitely it works. So this is one way to go ahead and create a map. And of course the recommended way is if you know exactly the type. If you're not sure about the type, you can go ahead and do string and dynamic, and if you still don't know that one, you can just remove everything from here, and which is gonna work better. But of course if you want, you can also do int over here, right? Of course we are going to have errors, so let's go ahead and do it like this, 0, and here we do 1, but it doesn't have to be 1, okay? It could be, say for example here I say 3, all right? It could be anything. I think I have a typo. Let me go ahead and fix that. So we don't need this, okay? And okay, cool, let's go ahead and print. But of course this time we'll have error over here, null. Now why we have this null? First, this key doesn't exist over here. That's why it says, okay, you're trying to look for something, but it doesn't exist. But now if you do say 3, so definitely it's gonna print orange over here. Okay, right. But at the same time, be careful though, this is not a list, because in the list we can always mention index. So it looks like index, but it is not, because index have order. But here you see our order is broken. We have 0, 1, we don't have 2. So over here, the order is completely broken, and it still works because that's how the map works. So the type of map, I mean, is the characteristics of map, whatever you put over here, as long as you have this two brackets over here, and whatever you put over here, you put that here, you can always get the data back. Okay, so that's the beautiful thing about, so maps are a very interesting way to work with your data. But anyway, so that's the other one that we learned over here, that this way we can create map. But are there any other ways to create map? Yes, there are other ways. Let's go ahead and check that. I'm going to remove this and I'm going to put it here like this. So now you can also create map like this. Okay, all you need to do, you need to just call this map class, or the constructor actually, and then so you create an object out of it. I don't think new is necessary, it's still gonna work with the new, and then you can assign value. So now it's more like a map object. Okay, say for example, if you don't have this thing, I'm gonna cut this and let's go ahead and do print map object, and let's see what's gonna happen over here. And it's empty curly braces, and this is exactly what we have seen before. There are always curly braces if you print map. So this curly braces means the map is empty. So if you want, you can actually put data in it. So that's how we put the data. So our data is this one. What is our data? So just now we assign values to it. Okay, so we created keys on our own, so the keys could be anything. So this way it's like, hey, I'm going to create a map and all the keys and values I'm going to assign on my own. I don't really care how other people think, but everything would be controlled by me. But the earlier way, when we have seen that one, that also works. Okay, so the idea is when you have a map, keys and values, you completely assign on your own. So anyway, so this is the second way of creating map, and once again you can go ahead and access them. So here you can say country. Let's go ahead and print that. So this time we are just accessing this key and its values, and that's how it works. Now here we see that, okay, so this is more like when you first created the map. For example, remember var items equal, it was something like this. So just exactly over here, you didn't mention any type, right? So here actually we don't have any type. So you can, if you want, you can mention type over here. So let's go ahead and mention our type. Over here we could say string dynamic. Okay, but the only thing we need to do, actually take this and put it here. Okay, and now the error should be gone. So here you're saying, okay, these are all strings and this all have to be dynamic, which means they could be any value. So let's go ahead and run that, and we see that that still works. So this is the other way to go ahead and create map. So now we learned that if you want, you can access the map keys values like this. But there are other ways to access for different kind of information. What about you just want to access the keys, which means this? You can get that if you want. If you just need them, okay, here we say it. What about you want to go ahead and access the values, which means this? And you can do that as well, no problem. So I would say that map is very flexible object that you can work with. And what if you want to access them one by one, all of them? Yes, you could also do that, and we'll use that a lot later in our application. So here we can actually use for each method. Now for each method takes two arguments. One is key. Actually you can call them anything, so I'm gonna give it better name so that we understand. And then over here we can actually use a closure or anonymous function. Actually this is a function over here that would get executed, and the function will take the map object, which is this one, and it'll take its keys, which are this, and the values, which are this. Once again, you can name them anything, it doesn't really matter. So here you could do print keys if you want, and we'll see that it works. And with this, we're gonna access them one by one, and it's better format because you see we don't have the brackets, and which is good for data operation and manipulation. And we'll see that the same goes for values as well. Okay, Now if you once again, if you want to change the name to anything, for example, let me change values to value, it's still gonna work. So these are just argument names and you can name them anything, doesn't matter. Now this is more like you're looping through, just like a list. If you remember how we work with list, var, here I can say items, and then here I can declare a list. I can say hello. Okay, I'm gonna call it apple banana, which is more plausible. Banana, okay, just like this, and then over here we could do just like this. So of course, now to loop through them, we know that we can declare for over here and then say var I equals 0, and then I less than items dot length and gth, and then I plus plus. We know that this is a basic loop. I think I have a type over here, len and gth, and then over here we can go ahead and print like this, items I. So we are going through it and it works. So let's go ahead and try it. And here we do see that, okay, what do we have? Expected to find, it was a typo, but anyway. So now you see that we see apple and banana over here, so you can loop through them. Now for a map to loop through, we have to use the for each method. Now so maps are not directly iterable. You cannot really access each of the element directly, just like you could do with list, which I mean by that using index. So map doesn't have anything called like index. You cannot really do that. Okay. Now if we want, actually we could be smart. Say for example, over here I can create a new variable. I can call it map list. So what I'm going to do over here, map object, and then obj, which is this variable, and then there is objects called entries, I believe, and then there is a method called map. Now it takes anything. Okay, so I'm gonna call it entry, and actually it should be inside this entry, and then I'm going to do like this. Okay, and then over here I can just simply say return entry. Okay, now let's go ahead and run it first. Okay, we don't have any issues. Now let's come over here, print map list. What I want to do, actually, I want to access them as a list, and I refer to the first item, which should be name, and this one, but of course we have an error. Now let's come over here, and then you could do list. I think it's called a to list. Now let's go ahead and run, and here we see the first item. Now most probably this is a bit confusing. Let me separate them. So what I did over here, we know that this is not a list. Okay, you cannot really exactly access like index. What we did over here, we looped through it one by one. Okay, but we know that for list, we can, if we want, we can actually go ahead and access anyone directly just using the index number, which we would do over here, 1. Okay, right, let's go ahead and check that. Let me remove that because we have too much information. Now let me put it over here. So over here, banana, we see, which refers to this one. So the list value for the second index, which is 1, is banana. We see that. Now this is, we know that we can do with list, but with map actually we can't. So you cannot go ahead and say 1 or 2 over here. Yes, you can mention the index key name, and that's okay. But what if you want to actually access the keys, or the whole thing, actually not just key, the whole item, the whole one element from our map, and you want to do it like list? then you have to do first, you need to go ahead and whatever the map object you have, on that map object you need to call the entries object, and then you have to call the map function, and the argument you could do anything, and you just return the argument, and after that the magic happens over here. So over here you can actually call this toList function. This toList function is going to convert the whole map to a list, and then here you see that we can access them using index. That's what I did exactly over here. So 0 directly means index because it doesn't exist over here, so it has to be an index. You can do the third index, which is a 2. All right, now here we say third index is the value is a country and Bangladesh, and that's what we see. All right, so that's how you actually convert a map to a list. So the idea is to convert a map to a list. You have to call the entries and map function, and on that function you need to make sure that you call toList. So that's how the basic map and list work. Now list is a pretty simple idea, but for map to work we get to know a little more things because we use map in different places in different way. And most of the time we're going to use like this most probably and access the keys like this so that we can have the values. There are a few places in Flutter actually we go ahead and also work like this, which actually we'll see very soon. So in our next Flutter example, next lesson, actually we'll see that we are actually using this. Now, so far, actually, I have talked about this thing, and a lot of the ideas could be new for some of you. Now, don't worry, if you ever get stuck, actually, I have a written article on that. You can go ahead and access this. So this is the link. I'll put the link actually in the lesson resources section. You can find that, and pretty much what I have talked over here, everything is actually given in article manner so that you can go ahead and learn about it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue our course.